going deeper. Little actions and thoughts add up to big change. This September theme, Transcendent Purpose. Transcendent purpose is about pushing past limits and living with clear awareness, focus, and intention. It invites us to imagine bold possibilities and achieve what was once seemed unreachable. By combining visionary goals with purposeful action, we unlock the potential for remarkable personal and collective success. So now I would like to introduce our speaker. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Audrey Beaudry, and the title of our talk is Elevation of Awareness. Please help me welcome Audrey.
Never need to change the mic height with Mardal. So good morning, everybody. It's truly a joy to be with you here today. As we gather in this sacred space, we come together not as individuals, but as spiritual community, ready to explore something deeply personal and profoundly universal, our spiritual growth. Isn't that why we're here? Whether you're just beginning your journey or have been walking the path for many years, there's always more to discover, more to unfold, more to express, and that's the beauty of spiritual life. It's ever evolving. So the notes from CSL International use the phrase many times, lift out. Lift out. I'm like, is that kind of like a woke saying, or is that a new thought saying I'm not aware of? Anyway, so I have my handy-dandy New Thought Dictionary, and I think it's a shortened form for lift yourself out of your limitation, which means to transcend old thought patterns, which is one of the hints for today. So as I alluded to in the meditation, today on this special occasion of World Peace Day, we'll reflect on how our awareness elevates us to deepen our spiritual practice, how we rise to greater clarity, connection, and purpose, and how through elevation we become instruments of peace in the world. Living above the line, right? Before we begin, I want to thank you for showing up, not just physically, but spiritually. Your presence here adds to the collective energy we share and is felt deeply. So I want to express my gratitude for the teachings of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, and the wisdom of Dr. Daniel L. Morgan, whose words will guide our reflection today. He wrote a book called Guidance for Spiritual Living. He is a doctor of divinity and a religious science practitioner. He is a contemporary. He just recently died this spring, according to Facebook. But his insights continue to speak to seekers around the world. It is encouraging to realize that our very nature is such as to keep us growing, always to provide the instrument through which our growth is accomplished. We have a physical body, a complex emotional nature, and an intellect. These three phases of our nature are so closely interrelated, and they react so definitely upon each other that we have a triple set of capacities to be utilized in the process of advancement. There is something within us which constantly pushes us forward, which demands continual process. Inertia may hinder us by paying little attention to our inner urge, but it is always there. It is what we are demanding expression. Made in the image and the likeness of the Father, we cannot accept that stagnation. We protest against it. Spiritual realization is the unfoldment of deeper than intellectual accomplishments, such as unifying of self with the Father, that we are conscious of an all-satisfying oneness. An all-satisfying oneness. I've never heard that before. I kind of like that for spirit. We may not be able to put it into words. It is inarticulate, but nevertheless so real that no one who experiences it can ever dispute. It is what all people have forever sought because it is the inherent nature of humans. So Dr. Ernest Holmes echoes this truth, reminding us that the power to rise, to elevate, is already within us. Our spiritual journey is not about becoming something new, it's about uncovering what has always been there. And to quote Dr. Holmes, within each of us is the power to rise above any situation or struggle and transform into the brightest, strongest versions of ourselves. So the inner urge within us doesn't move us forward, it lifts us upward, lift out. If the spiritual ascension it's a spiritual ascension arising into deeper truth. We are designed to evolve, and we've been given everything we need for that journey: our physical body, our emotions, and our intellect. These are the tools to which our awareness expands. As we elevate our awareness, we become more attuned to the presence of peace, not just the absence of conflict, but as living, breathing energy that flows through us in the world. This urge is persistent, even when we feel stuck, distracted, or uncertain. It gently whispers, "There's more, keep going." Sound familiar? And when we listen, really listen, we begin to experience a spiritual realization that goes beyond words. It's a feeling of oneness, of being held, of coming home to ourselves. As we continue to grow in our spiritual practices, we start to see more clearly what is truly ours to be. Sometimes the clarity leads us in a new direction, one we didn't consider before. Pivoting like that takes courage, faith, and trust. We may not know exactly where we're headed, but we follow our inner knowing. We move further away. I think every single one of us didn't know what we were getting into when we came to this congregation. And a lot of us have been here for years and waiting to see what unfolds, always. As we continue to grow through our spiritual practice, we start to see more clearly what is truly ours to do and be. Sometimes clarity leads us to a new direction that hasn't been considered before. Pivoting like that takes courage, faith, and trust. We may not know exactly where we are headed, but when we follow that inner knowing, we move forward anyway. So the outline gives 3 tips for this, and the first one is letting the blinders fall away. So eventually the blinders that kept us narrowly focused begin to fall away. Suddenly the path ahead becomes clear. It feels like a breath of fresh air. We realize the trust we placed in spirit is never displaced. When we look back, we can even appreciate the blinders. They helped us stay focused on the guidance we were receiving at the time. This kind of trust and faith elevates awareness, and the results, the demonstrations of growth and clarity in our lives, are beautiful indicators of what spiritual progress is. So here's a story that might bring this to life. There was a woman named Claire who spent many years working in corporate finance. She was successful, respected, and deeply committed to her work. But something inside her felt restless. She had always believed that her purpose was to climb the corporate ladder. She wore that belief like blinder, focus, determination, and unwavering. We may have been like Claire. We may know people like Claire that climbing the ladder is the only thing there is. So one day during a meditation retreat, Claire had a moment of deep stillness, and in that silence she heard a quiet but clear message. You are meant to heal. It startled her. She had never considered anything outside of finance, but the message was persistent. So over the next few months, Claire began exploring energy healing and spiritual counseling. She took classes, met mentors, and slowly started to shift her focus. It wasn't easy. She had to let go of her old identity, her comfort zone, and the expectations others had of her. But as she removed the blinders, she saw a new path, one that felt aligned, joyful, and deeply fulfilling. Today, Claire is a spiritual coach, helping others awaken their own inner truth. And she says, the blinders help me focus, but taking them off helped me fly. So her story reminds us that clarity often comes when we are willing to listen inward and trust spirit, even when the path ahead is unfamiliar. So another spiritual growth metaphor is like gardening. I often talk about seed, soil, plant. Each time we listen to spirit, we nudge, each whisper is a seed, and when we act on that guidance, we plant the seed. When we pause to reflect, we water it, and when we trust the process, we nurture it. I think I have hundreds of seeds that I haven't planted as a creative person. Sometimes growth is visible, sometimes it happens underground, but always something is unfolding. I guess sometimes you get tomatoes and sometimes you get potatoes. Each sprout is a signal of elevation, our awareness lifting as we nurture divine ideas. So here's a story of a man named Elias, a former soldier who became a peace builder. After years of conflict, he felt a nudge, an inner whisper, to return to the village where he once fought. He didn't know why, but he just followed it. And there he began listening to stories of those he once saw as enemies. He started a community garden where former combatants and civilians worked side by side. The garden became a symbol of healing. The seed he planted wasn't just soil, it was in the hearts of people. His awareness had elevated, and through that, peace began to sprout. Dr. Ernest Holmes teaches that the seed of perfection is already planted within us. Elias didn't need to become someone new. He simply recognized the divine seed and chose to nurture it into peace. That's what elevation of awareness looks like, seeing the sacred not only in ourselves but in others as well, living above the line. So take a moment to reflect. You don't need to share, but can you recall a time when you followed a divine nudge? Maybe you reached out to someone unexpectedly, paused a project that no longer felt aligned, or changed directions entirely. What blossomed from that moment? Each act of listening, each act of compassion is a seed of peace. And as our awareness rises, we become gardeners of a more peaceful world, cultivating harmony, awareness, and understanding and love wherever we go. And then after all the preparation, all the prayer, and all the practice, we rise. We ascend into a new level of being. Just like the rocket needs careful planning before it launches, our spiritual journey requires dedication. It's through a steady inner work that we build the foundation of transformation. And when the time is right, we take flight. So let's consider the story of Lihan Jawawi. She's from Libya. Liberian woman who helped end a brutal civil war through nonviolence, protest, and prayer. She gathered thousands of women, Christian and Muslim alike, to sit in silent protest, demanding peace. Her spiritual preparation, her inner liftoff, gave her the strength to lead a movement that changed the nation. Her elevated awareness became a focus of transformation. Praying without ceasing, the Bible reminds us. And this isn't just the spoken words, it's about living in constant communication with the divine, allowing Spirit to guide our thoughts, actions, and intentions. I don't know, I think for me, allowing Spirit to guide my thoughts, actions, intentions is easier than speaking prayers all day long. So Dr. Holmes teaches that peace begins in the mind. Lima Jiwawi's movement in the Liberia is born from a shift of consciousness, a refusal to accept war as inevitable, as a bold decision to awaken the awareness towards peace. Her awakening isn't just personal, it was collective. It lifted a nation. When we live from this elevated awareness, everything we touch becomes infused with Spirit. Our work, our relationships, our thoughts, they all begin to reflect the consciousness we cultivate. And when we awaken spiritually, we don't rise just for ourselves, we rise for others. We become instruments of peace, grounded in spirit and guided by purpose. So, what do we do with all this? I have 3 short phrases. They're little words, but they're big actions. We commit, we recommit, and we stay the course. Elevating our awareness is much like caring for our physical health. It takes effort, attention, and love. We nourish our soul through spiritual practices, uplifting activities, and the company of those who inspire us. We also learn to let go. As Emerson beautifully said, let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of divine circuits. We move our egos aside and allow Spirit to shine through. And when we stay open to growth, open to change, open to the next step on our journey. Today, I invite you to reflect on your own spiritual path. What seeds are you planting? What blinders do you need to remove? What preparation are you doing for your awakening? Just as gravity pulls us down below the line, distraction of the world can lower our awareness. But our spiritual practices are the wings that keep us lifted. As we celebrate World Peace Day, and I hope you acknowledge it when you say grace at dinner tonight or think about it this afternoon, let us remember Holmes' words. We are not limited by boundaries, but by false ideas. When we elevate our awareness, we dissolve those illusions by stepping into unity. Peace is not a distant dream, it's a present reality waiting to be lived. So I'm going to close with an affirmation. Choose to repeat it if you want to. Today I rise in awareness. Open my heart to divine wisdom. And allow peace to flow through me. And so it is.